With this cooler weather, I've enjoyed keeping the heat down and putting logs in the fireplace and having the fire warm up the house. And the first night when it was really cold, I didn't want to go to bed. I wanted to sleep in the fireplace. You hear the I don't know what you call it, the sound of the wood burning. There's like a sound burning, the crackling, the popping, and I just really, really enjoy that. And I decided my next house should have a fireplace in the bedroom. I just really enjoyed it. But if you think about having a fire in the house without a fireplace, it's dangerous, right? And we see what happened in LA, where all the fires. And it teaches us the value of the fireplace in the house. The fire is warm, it's beautiful, it's soothing, but without the fireplace, it's destructive and chaotic and gets out of hand. And it's a way I learned how we can consider the church for our spiritual fire. Like I've heard people say, I'm on fire for Christ. And that's a beautiful thing. But I also hear people say stuff like, I'm spiritual but not religious. And I had someone say that's a lazy way of, I believe, but I don't really want to do the work that it requires to believe. And to say that the church is the fireplace for our spiritual fire, without the church, our spiritual fire can easily burn out or can easily get out of control. And I've seen radicals who take what they've read and what they claim to believe and really take it to an extreme level where it becomes dangerous for them, it becomes dangerous for others, because they lack the fireplace, a way to contain that fire and keep it burning healthy. So when I say the church is that fireplace, it feeds the fire through the scripture, it feeds the fire through the sacraments, through the beautiful worship, through our prayers, through our collective family, our spiritual family. A log on its own will eventually burn out, but when we're all here together, we can fan the fire, and it helps burn the fire hotter. And to understand the church in that way, it allows us to thrive in our spiritual lives, to maintain that spiritual fire in a healthy way. But even within the church, sometimes you get burned out. Maybe you overcommit yourself, or maybe, you're on fire, but you're feeling a little bit lazy and you don't want to come tonight or Sunday or whatever. But within the fireplace of the church, we have our other members who are there to help encourage you, to help lift you up, to help stoke the flames. If you fail to show up, maybe we call you and say, hey, we missed you today. Or to identify, hey, you're doing a lot lately. Let's share the burden, let's share the load, and allow other people to serve. I experience this in myself, where I want to be involved in everything, and I want to be a leader for everything, and I want to take a nap because I'm tired, and it's hard to keep up. But then to invite someone else in and say, here's leadership for you, and to see their fire get stoked a little bit and burn a little bit hotter, and allows me to catch my breath and watch the fire and enjoy it. Our culture today dismisses the necessity of the fireplace. We don't want the church. We don't want someone telling me how to live my life. We don't want someone telling me how I should understand the scripture. But unless we're like very well studied in Scripture, we shouldn't be making discerning opinions about what we've just read because I read it once and it tickled me funny, and so I think this is all that there is. Because the church is here to keep that fire healthy, where we can understand, you read that, but you misread it, or we don't approach it in the proper vein of things. I've heard people complain about the Old Testament. You know, God is a vengeful God, and He destroyed these people for no reason. And my thought is, if God is all that we claim He to be, all-knowing, all-powerful, all-loving, all these things, if we see something in the Scripture we disagree with, maybe we should reconsider, He's right and I'm wrong. Where God does something, He knows everything and I know just what I'm reading. And maybe, and often in the Old Testament, I don't understand what I'm reading. And if He is all that God is meant to be, He is right. And the church is here to help us to understand that and to help us find humility in our challenges and to really keep us healthy in the way that we approach our spiritual lives. Some people, they may have committed some sin that they judge for themselves as too bad, and I shouldn't come to church, and maybe I won't come for communion because I'm punishing myself. And when we come to confession and they say this is what they did, I often say, who gave you the right to deny yourself Holy Communion? Who gave you the right to punish yourself so much? And they're like, well, I did this thing. I'm like, but it's not your role to adjust yourself, because you're doing it oftentimes out of emotion, out of hurt feelings, out of confusion, out of shame. But the church is here to lift you out of the shame and restore you to Christ. And maybe not coming or not receiving communion is not the right way to go. They say a lawyer who has himself as a client has a fool for a client, right? And a doctor, the same thing. A doctor doesn't diagnose, a good doctor doesn't diagnose himself or his family, because our mind gets clouded with emotions and what if I'm wrong, what if I'm right, all this. And so you go see someone else for the diagnosis. And that's another purpose of the church, to guide us through our spiritual illness. And so just consider those things about why we come to the church, why we collect or congregate in the church, why do we trust the church to lead us in our lives, and to really get that visual. It's here to keep that spiritual fire strong and healthy, especially through the colder weathers, which we find not just in winter, but in different experiences in the secular world. So God bless you all for joining us tonight. Please come forward for the Venerate the Icons, and have a pleasant evening.